Afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Fundraising BIDness Talk. My name is Patrick Cyber. I'm the lead auctioneer and owner of G Events LLC and producing charity auctions and golf tournaments around the United States. Based here in Beaverton, Oregon, we're having they call it a heat wave here in Beaverton. We're on our second day in a row of going to be our third day of 90 plus temperatures. So probably sounds cool to some of you around the country, some of our buddies out there, but here they think it's hot. So it's all good. Anyhow, so happy you could join us today. And I want to encourage you, if you're tuning in, to feel free to please drop a line in the comment box. Say hello. Let us know where you're tuning in from. And as always, feel free at any time in the show, be comfortable asking a question, whether it's on topic or not. This is all about talking about the fundraising BIDness. So it helps if you chime in, let us know what you're thinking. So thank you so much for tuning in again. Today, our subject is going to be something that I've seen several of our nonprofit clients gyrating over as we get into getting close to the start of the fall fundraising auction business. And that is how to incorporate, or should we incorporate, live streaming into our event. And so I wanted to spend some time today and talk a little bit about that and share with you a little bit about the criteria that I use in helping our clients determine whether live streaming makes sense for them or not. So let's start with talking a little bit about the evolution here. Over the last couple of years, we went from pretty much 100% gathering events in the fundraising auction business to where we all of a sudden were not allowed to gather, and so we made the change to creating 100% virtual events, which traditionally included some online auction features and then a live streamed event that kind of showcased the organization. And that was incredibly successful when done correctly. And there's so many factors involved in being deemed doing it correctly that we don't need to waste our time today. But many organizations had success with the live streaming component of their event. And so as we move forward into this next evolution of our industry, one of the things that we're trying to determine is what factors and what elements of the gathering event that we did pre-2019, okay, to combine what elements of those gathering events do we utilize moving forward in this new environment, post on our way being hopefully soon close to post COVID. And then what are some of the tools that we learned and improved on during the pandemic that allowed us to be successful in our fundraising? What elements of that do we continue moving forward? And so, one of the biggest things that we hear all the time is, the live streaming worked really well. Should we be live streaming our next gathering event? And so let's run through some criteria. There's several questions that I always like to ask, and we'll go through them here. And first and foremost, to me, is what was your audience pre-COVID to versus audience during COVID. And what I mean by that is, what I'm looking for there is, I want to see if we had a gathering event where we had, let's say, 300 people attending the event. And let's assume that the majority of them were coupled up, right? They had a significant other with them. They were working out of one checkbook, let's call it, or pocketbook. So we refer to those, if we had 300 people in the room, a lot of times we'll say that gave us a total of about 150 checkbooks or 150 bidders. Now, the reason that's important is we compare that to our audience during COVID. during COVID, we were looking primarily at the number of registered bidders. And what I mean by that is registered bidders who were participating in our virtual events, whether be in the online auction or an online donation. We were really interested in our number of bidders who registered and participated, right? So we look at that number. I'm always going to say, hey, let's look at what was our attendance pre-COVID, what was our attendance during COVID, and what do we anticipate moving forward as we move into this new environment? Are we going back to that audience that we had back in 2019 and before? Or did we add a bunch of people during COVID that that are now going to attend our event? Or are we going to lose people who used to attend in person and now they're attending virtually the last couple of years, and they want to continue attending virtually and bidding virtually? So that's a big question to ask yourself. I'm always interested in where are we at with our numbers? What was our pre-COVID audience and what was our audience during COVID? Because that's going to help us determine whether live streaming, this new format, whatever that format might be for you moving into the fall and beyond, that's going to help us determine whether you invest in that live stream component. So as you tune in, folks, hey, feel free, please drop a line in the comment box, say hello, let us know where you're tuning in from. And as always, feel free to drop a question. Let us know whether it's on topic or not. We'd love to answer them. So, so going back to, that's the first thing is I'm always looking for, because if we are going to have the exact audience that we had pre-COVID, and now we're going back to in person and they are in the room, I'm not so sure that I would make a lot of sense to me to live stream the event. Now, I will say this, that I 100% believe that taking the silent auction and from your pre-COVID event, take that silent auction and make it an online auction, similar to what we did during COVID. 100% of the time, whether that audience has grown, whether that audience is less, it doesn't matter to me. I'm absolutely a huge fan of taking what used to be your silent auction and making it an online auction. And so that's big to me. And we'll put that on there. Definitely move silent to online auction moving forward. And I think that's crucial. Okay. So now we want to know, we've asked, what does our audience look like? The other thing is, where is our audience, right? That's one of the things that I'm really sensitive to as we make this move back to gathering events, right? So if we determine that during the pre-COVID environment, we had, let's say, a gathering event and we had 300 people, let's stick with the same example that we've been using, which was about 150 bidders. If we looked at that, and as we move forward into this fall and beyond, if we feel that those same number of folks are going to show up again, the question becomes, did we register bidders during our virtual environment? Were those people all local? And are they able to attend the event now? Because I think we're going to find that in some cases, I know I had a group out of Eugene. We had traditionally registered about 50 or 60 bidders, nice little event, about 100 some odd people. And when we moved them to virtual, we registered about the same number of bidders, maybe a few more. But the difference was we registered bidders in 26 different states. Okay. So for that group, when we go back to gathering, we don't want to leave those bidders in the 25 other states, if you will, out of the opportunity to support that cause, right? So that's going to determine, well, we need to keep live streaming to that audience. Okay. Now, in their particular case, interestingly enough, when we went from a gathering event to a virtual event, they lost a lot of their pre-COVID audience. They lost a lot of their traditional gathering audience in the move to virtual. For whatever reason, they knew there was quite a few of their supporters who were technology challenged, weren't really into the concept of watching a live stream or bidding online. They enjoyed the atmosphere and all that of the gathering event. So, interestingly enough, the fact that we were able to still register as many bidders and also expand the reach to 26 different states, that's a huge situation that as you move back to, and net results were also almost double what they had been previously. So interestingly enough, in that case, when we move back to a gathering event for our primary format, we're definitely looking at live streaming because we want to keep touching base with those folks in the other states that we would not, they're not going to fly to Oregon to go to the event in person. So where is your audience, right? That's what I'm going to encourage you to do. And at the same time, I'm going to say, can we expand our audience, right? So not only where is our audience, but the audience that we've traditionally had, whether it be in gathering or in virtual, is there an opportunity for us to grow that in that audience? And what I would say here is an example might be, let's say, a Catholic high school, for example, or a small university where folks who graduate from there, they have alumni all over the country. Now, they have traditionally not had success getting those people to fly back for their gathering event. At the same time, when they made the move to virtual, they were so challenged to communicate to the people who had attended their event, who they knew were the warm beds, if you say, that were going to support them. They were so worried about getting them to tune into the virtual. I'm of the opinion that in many cases we have left some money on the table because I think the virtual provided us a platform to reach that audience around the country. And it was not a focus of those groups because they were trying to recoup as much of what they had thought they were going to lose with not being able to have an in-person event. So moving forward, it's not only where is our audience, but it's also what is our potential audience. So keep that in mind too, folks. Think about, who could we reach? And that can determine your virtual format, whether you're going to live stream your in-person event or not. And then the other thing, where is our audience is key. The next thing I want to think about is the cost of live streaming. Okay, because there are some additional costs when we were doing events in a studio. It was a controlled environment. The equipment was all sitting there. We could literally, as auctioneers and MCs and representatives of the host organization, we could just walk right into the AV department and they flipped a switch and it was on. Okay. And we were ready to go. And in fact, I saw the AV department grow from one studio to 3 studios or 4 studios. I don't know how many studios they had that were doing incredible work, but all the equipment was stationary and was in there. So now, folks, when we take these events back to the ballrooms, if you will, and we decide we want to live stream them, there's some additional cost, and understandably so, for your audiovisual provider to now transport all that equipment to make your show a live stream and all the different elements to it. And you might find that expense, you've got to ask yourself, can we generate a return on that investment? Because I think every time, whether it's your auctioneer, whether it's your venue, I'm always going to encourage you, don't think of them as cost, think of them as an investment, because even down to your menu is an investment. Are we making a good decision as a committee to invest and a steak dinner versus a chicken dinner, or some fancy dessert versus cookies on the table. All of those are investments. The intent here, folks, is that when we spend money to support that event, we are hoping that that will return significantly more dollars than it cost us to do it. If you're not treating those as an investment and you're just thinking of that as it's the cost of doing business, I would present to maybe reconsider whether you spend those dollars in that way. So when it comes to your investing in your audio visual, really make sure that you are optimistic and feel comfortable and confident that you will get a return on that investment. Another thing I want you to consider when you think about moving your new formatted gathering event to live stream, or incorporating live stream in that format, is that the format of the night, right? Now all of a sudden you're thinking about, is it's going to change our format, because we don't want to live stream someone having dinner. That doesn't make a lot of sense, right? We want to, if we're going to live stream, we're going to live stream the fundraising portion of the evening, the stage program portion of the program that night. And so here's some things to think about. If we live stream, what night is our event? If many of our clients, most of them, all except for one that I can think of, we took their events off of weekends when we went virtual, because we were fairly convinced and very, very confident that it was going to be incredibly difficult to get folks to tune into a live streamed event on a Saturday night during COVID. And so with that being said, we avoided the weekends like the plague, right? And so we took events off of Saturdays and we moved them to Wednesdays, to Thursdays. We did events on Tuesday. I even did a Monday night event. We moved those to weeknight events. And as we move forward, I see organizations wanting to move back to Saturday for their gathering event, which I personally am not convinced is always the great idea for several reasons. But just with the concept of, I don't believe that people will tune into your live stream on Saturday night at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. I think you have much higher probability of that happening on a Wednesday night at 7 o'clock than you do on a Saturday night at 7 o'clock. And I think it's even more so now that we're in this new environment. I think, folks appear to me to be much more selfish with their schedules. They're very adamant about spending time with family and friends on the weekends. And yes, that might be your organization as family and friends, and that's great. And so maybe it works for you, but I want you to really think about it and ask yourself, if we used to be on a Saturday night and now we moved our event to a Wednesday during COVID because we were live streaming it, now we have the opportunity to come back together in person. Are we going to move back to a Saturday, or should we stay on a weeknight? And if we are thinking that we're going to live stream, I'm gonna traditionally, and every organization is different, but I'm gonna traditionally suggest that we don't live stream if our audience is already back in the room and we're trying to do this event on a Saturday night, that we're not going to reach people outside of the room on a Saturday night, in my opinion, in most cases. Now, there's always the oddity, but as kind of a general rule, I would say that's a red flag to think about. Okay. Now, I'm also going to present you the case that keeping your gathering event on a weeknight is a huge opportunity. Okay. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I want you to think about the fact that prior to COVID, we had these silent auctions, and we also used venues that we took a lot of time to set up. And what I mean by that is we used to have all these volunteers coming together and moving all of the auction packages, even the silent auction packages, and moving them to a venue where our ballroom, wherever we were. And it would take, a significant amount of time to get ready for that event. So whether it was transporting or it was setting up and displaying and printing bid sheets and all the different things that are associated with putting together that silent auction component of your event, and then decorations, things of that nature. Okay. It's been an observation of mine, and everybody I ask, I keep hearing the same thing. They agree with me, is that volunteers are farther and fewer between. Folks, for whatever reason, are not volunteering like they once did. So having that crew of people to do that work for you is in question. Okay. But it also took all day. So Saturday made a lot of sense for a lot of organizations because we had our volunteers show up at 8 o'clock at the business and take all the items and load them up into the trucks and cars and drive them over to the venue, and then spend all day organizing and getting them all set up, and then racing home for that quick shower to come back and have the event. Well, one of the great benefits of the environment that we were in during COVID was moving these events, these silent auctions, and quite a bit of the live auction components to the online format. And so the great thing about that online format is we don't have to display the items. We're going to open our online bidding a week before it closes, or a week before that signature gathering event. And we're going to let people bid on those items 24/7 for that entire week leading up to the event. And we're not going to close that online auction until probably a half hour to an hour after what our anticipated close of the gathering event is. And there's some reason for that, folks. First and foremost, I think people are still concerned that people bidding online could be a distraction at a gathering event. And so I would present by letting them bid for a week prior to that event. The majority of the bidding's over, but there is a rush at the end, right before it all closes and finishes, for people to bid. And I would say that I wouldn't try to close that online auction during your gathering event, because you're going to create what you tried to avoid. Okay. But if you let it in 30 minutes or an hour after, now all of a sudden those people are still on the high from their event. They placed all their bids on the front end. Maybe they took, when they got outbid, they might have bid during the event, but probably not, because they had the opportunity. They knew they had time after to bid. And then it closes afterwards, and that's great. And the best part about that is you didn't have to bring the items to the venue. You didn't have to cart all the baskets and all the different things to your ballroom that you were hosting the event, right? What you're going to do is you're going to offer people to pick up or delivery of items that following week. And, it gives the organization a real opportunity when that person comes by to pick up their packages, an opportunity for you to personally say thank you, a lot better than they did when they were standing in line after a long evening, and they were standing in a line to pick up their items, and you had all these folks running around getting flustered trying to find the items. So, but that in itself allows you to save an incredible amount of time in your setup. So now all of a sudden, the logic behind the Saturday night, which was, in some cases, we need all this time to set up. Now we don't need all that time, because we're going to do our silent auction online, and we're not going to bring those items to the venue, and we're not going to distribute them that night, right? So it reduces a lot of your volunteer support needs. It also greatly reduces your amount of time. And as I was visiting with Jill Marie Wiles yesterday, one of the icons in the industry of first woman to win the National Auctioneers Association International Bid Calling Championship and things like that. Wonderful wealth of knowledge. She engaged me yesterday and challenged me to try to think about the value of volunteers. I mean, it's an incredibly valuable asset that you have as a And we're back. So with that said, there's a lot of factors, in determining. I would not, as a rule, probably not live stream an event on a Saturday night. I think that's a challenge. So, but I'm saying, you can move it to a weeknight, have your gathering event on a weeknight because you're utilizing an online auction. And now there's a chance, if you have the audience to be online, and you can generate a return on your investment in the audio visual requirements to do it right, okay, then makes all the sense in the world to me. So, hey folks, looks like we had a little technical difficulties there, and sorry for the little gaffe and going dark there for us. First time that's happened for me ever here, but it's all part of the fun, right? We just deal with it and keep going. But I wanted to thank you for tuning in today. I want to encourage you that we're always here on Wednesdays at noon. Fundraising BIDness Talk is live Wednesdays at noon. And if you missed an episode or you want to watch a replay, there's 67 episodes out there, right? With great information. Hopefully you find something there that'll make a difference in helping you plan your fundraising event coming up here in the future. Go to fundraisingbidnesstalk.com and check it out. Pick something up. Let us know. And if there's ever a chance for us to help you with your event, we'd love to do that. Just reach out to us at geventslc.com. There's a scheduling app on there with our friends at Calendly, and all you got to do is pick a time and a format, and we would love to visit with you about your event, regardless of where you are in the world. If we can be of assistance, that's what we would love to do. So thank you so much for tuning in. I want to remind you that it's not where you start the bidding. It's all about where you finish. Hope you have a great day, folks. Thanks for tuning in.